This is living proof that great segments of the population, primarily the minority population, are living in the United States of America as though they were living in a third world country, and that is a fundamental reason why we had this insurrection, and it's not going to stop until such time that the root causes that gave rise to this insurrection are addressed: unemployment, poverty, discrimination, and racism.
5-6 hours after the verdicts came down, symbols of oppression and racism were attacked, like the police department, City Hall, the LA Times. But once it spread over here, it was more an economic rebellion. I think people wanted to take things because they didn't have anything. And this is one of the first places that it hit. Once it started spreading, it started right here.
Instead of setting up some type of a recreation center to bring the kids to while this stuff is going on, they have them report to every day, to calm them down. The kids are the ones out here in the streets, and we don't control the kids.
The community residents are their customers, and yet none of these people live here, and the money leaves the community and does not get reinvested, and that's part of the problem.
Latinos and Afro-Americans, who are the residents of all the depressed areas in the city, has been going to government complaining about the fact that there are too many liquor stores located in our neighborhoods, that we didn't want them, no one pay attention.
In any other neighborhood, you could walk into a bank and have a government check cashed at no charge. These liquor stores charge as much as 10%.
It was a sea of gas stations and liquor stores and small corner markets, with a few motels scattered around. So this whole environment in 1992 was one of desperation for folks that really had no services that matched the kind of dignity of life that they wanted to have. It was a very, very desperate thing. And I can remember so graphically the day when that poor truck driver, Reginald Denny, on the corner of, I want to say, Normandy and Slauson, was being pummeled by lamps and other things in the middle of the street for nothing except for having been there at the time. And it just reflected the desperation that came out of a community that had just been so underserved and so neglected. And it was just like nobody cared. At the very height of the violence that was going on in the city, it just kind of came to all of us that a big part of the solution had to do with going to churches and identifying young leaders who had a passion for Christ but just could not afford to get good education and good jobs, and helping them get good education, good jobs, but most importantly become Christian leaders who could be role models of success and could build up ministries within their church so that we could touch more folk.
My name is Jose Chavez. I'm currently the youth minister at St. Andrews here in Pasadena. Coming into Ascending Lights, it was really, it was different. Growing up, I never really had people who cared. Most of my teachers and counselors in school were just sort of going through the motions. For my first 2 years in the program, I was really just doing the same thing I had been doing, maybe with a little more fervor. That sort of changed. I was at an Ascending Lights training where you had to identify your gifts. One of my gifts had been speaking in front of people, well, more so really being okay with making a fool out of myself in front of people. I was with my spiritual mentor at the time, who was the confirmation coordinator here, and I turned to him and I said, I think I'm ready to start teaching some of the kids. And he just tossed me right into the classroom, sort of baptism by fire. And I realized that I really enjoyed it. I've been talking to a few kids, and they never wanted to go home. Some of the kids may have both parents, but they both have to work, and so they're left on their own for a long time. Maybe they're jumping around between relatives' homes. So they don't really have a stable home life. And not having that can be really tough for a kid to, well, not only to sort of stay on the right path, but to make healthy relationships with people. The kids wanted a place to go here. They liked coming here. I had mentioned it to Gary again, and I was telling him again, I don't really think I can do that. I'm a nobody. What can I really do? And then he just sort of threw the question right back, well, really, what can you do? So at the end of my year of running a youth group as a volunteer, I was really running it out of my backpack because I was also juggling school and work. The priest here really stepped up to bat for me, and they essentially got me hired on as a staff member. I first had my first meeting, I had 2 kids. And that really just brought me down so low, and I was just like, oh, this is just a horrific failure. Being in ministry, helping people, you want to feel like you're doing something right away. It's hard to really stick with it, but it does happen.
My name is Joy Nichols, and I currently work as a Deputy Probation Officer. I was born and raised in the city of West Covina. Worked for SEA, which is Solidarity Enrichment Action Charter School, as a youth service specialist, and I was at an all-girls school. And let me tell you something, how I was thinking back then when I was 20-ish. I didn't like girls. Girls had attitudes, they had drama, it was always something going on. I said, oh, put me with the guys, give me a co-ed situation. No, all girls. I always kind of knew in the back of my head that I would be working with young people, and especially females. I never knew why, since I really at that time did not want to try to run as far away as possible. But I found myself starting to be more involved in the students' lives as far as doing community outreach with them, even on my days off. In 2005, I got hired with the Los Angeles County Probation Department, and guess where God puts me at? At an all-girls facility. And I said, okay, God, you're really funny. In the course of that, we started small groups with the kids who were detained in the camps. And through the small groups, I started hearing the girls' stories about how some of them were raped, how some of them were abused by their own parents, how some mothers left them to go chase after their own dreams or another man or whatever the case is. I found myself being very involved in the community, starting an after-school tutoring program, taking extra additional time with my charges, the kids on my caseload, helping them with their family issues, helping the family as a whole, because it kind of clicked one day. If the family's not healthy, the kids aren't going to be healthy. You know, sometimes a lot of these kids live in impoverished neighborhoods, and they don't see hope. They don't think they could come out. They think how the one-bedroom apartment that they're living in the middle of this bad neighborhood, that's their future, and so let me just go out and do what everybody else is doing that's not right. And you know, my job and my Christian mission has to try to instill in them that that's not a period. Don't put a period where God put a comma at. And I really believe in my heart that sometimes your ministry is outside the church walls, because you are a disciple of Christ, and everywhere you go, every person you run across, hopefully your life, you will live your life in a way that it will touch that person.